the sooner you start going unhinged and really letting it all out there, the sooner you are going to get all the opportunities to reflect and find safety in your own being and not need the approval of others. Because let me tell you, it really does something to your confidence and your freedom to literally just be yourself. Hello, Omies. Welcome in to a powerful episode of the Out of Our Minds podcast. You got your girl Nikki here, you got your girl Bella here, and we are diving right in. I have a topic that's been on my heart that I feel like so many of us are going to feel a lot of relief as we listen to this. And I've been sharing a bit about this topic on my Instagram, so if you follow me, you've probably seen some graphics that I've been making, some videos I've been making, all around this beautiful topic of self-forgiveness, and even deeper, just sensing this energy and this vibration of shame. And I want to really dive into this today because I've been having so many beautiful revelations with this topic specifically, and I've been tapping into some personal healing that has granted me some pretty deep freedom. And I want to start by just kind of giving my definition of what I feel the frequency of shame is. And when you hone in to that energy and you can like sense what that would feel like, or maybe you are a being that feels this emotion, this energy, what it boils down to is a disowning of ourself, a perspective of who we are, or maybe parts of who we are, as something that is bad, as something that needs to be changed, needs to hide. And the way that this can kind of bubble up on the surface as a human that's navigating this life with the energy of shame within that maybe wasn't processed when you were younger, it can look like an outward focus of judging other people. It can look like a hyperfixation of trying to like always figure out the way people are perceiving you and what they're thinking of you. Or it can just feel like this heaviness to want to hide parts of who you are, or maybe you express parts of who you are and then you feel this sense of regret because maybe it wasn't received the way that you wanted it to be received. And it can also just feel like there are parts of you that aren't worthy of being expressed. There probably is a bunch of other ways that this can show up in life, but I would say from a surface level 3D human perspective, that is definitely, those are some like common themes, the way that this can pop up. And I feel like it is very common for us as souls coming down into this 3D human experience to go through the journey of transmuting the energy of shame, because what's on the other side is freaking potent. And I believe it's one of those things that a soul will sign up for before they come down here. And on the other side of shame, it is this complete reclamation and embrace of your essence, everything that you are. And it's really beautiful to think about how when you kind of walk through the doorway of shame and you transmute that energy, as in you give love to it and you give presence to it, what you get through that process is just a full claiming of everything that you are. And that is freedom. To not feel like you have to change, to not feel like you have to morph into someone else when you're in someone's presence, to feel like you can creatively express yourself or just express yourself in general in a way that feels good to you, that feels liberating to you. And it's also this disconnection from judging other people's shadows and thinking that they are something that needs to change as well. And this topic has been so alive for me because I've sensed some energy of shame coming up for myself. And you guys can tune in if this is something that's been coming up for you. If you feel like you resonate with any of those 3D surface level kind of things that happen that I just listed out of when this energy is within us. And for me, it was arriving in my life at the perfect time because Bella knows, but I've been really jumping into this creative journey of wanting to express myself even more freely online. Like, I'm talking about those kinds of creators you see online and they just don't give an F, where they're creating content that's really just them being this beautiful conduit, this beautiful channel for whatever wants to come through them. And I feel like I do this, but there also has been this truth coming alive with me where I felt like I was holding parts of myself back, like I was playing it too safe. And I wanted to just allow all of me to be expressed online. And what happened from that intention was the ego started to freaking rage. And this is what happens when you set the intention to do something big in life, to make a shift, to start something new, to embody an identity that feels more true to you. The exact voices that go against that, the ego that's going to want to protect you from doing that, the triggers, the people, the things in your reality that are going to be mirrors to your belief systems that go against that, they all come up at perfect timing. And what I noticed in my own journey was this hyper vigilance on thinking about the way people perceived me. And it was so crazy because I've gone all these months like really not giving an F. And then I'm sitting down and thinking, okay, I actually feel like there are parts of me that give an F. And I was just kind of ignoring that. It was almost like I hit my first level of self expression, and that's what felt safe for me. And then when I set the intention of like, okay, I want to go deeper into my self expression, I want to just be more free. I want to just allow all parts of me to be expressed. And even if a shadow comes out, even if frustration comes out. And what came from that was just this realization of, wow, I think there actually are parts of me that are like scared of what people think about me. And I started to go a little bit deeper into that and realized that I was holding and feeling a sense of shame towards parts of me that I thought needed to change, parts of me that I thought wouldn't be acceptable, parts of me that I thought were not so love and light. And that shame brought me into this beautiful doorway of holy fuck, there are so many parts of me that that have kind of been like shoved in the corner a bit. And I started to spend time just thinking about what it would feel like to fully freaking embrace every single part of me to a new level. And I've been on this beautiful self love journey for a few years now, but it's really ramped up in the past 2 years. And this has just been like the icing on the freaking cake of really feeling that subtle labeling and kind of boxing of parts of myself that I thought I needed to heal, that I thought I needed to change. And it has been this beautiful, like an exhale, a sigh of relief, where I'm really feeling just so ready to look at my shadows and be like, I fucking love you. You make me me. Do I want to act out on my shadows every freaking day? No, because that doesn't feel good to me. But are there moments where I act out on a shadow? Yeah. It literally happened yesterday with us.
It's divine.
But the reason I wanted to talk about this today on the pod is because I had a bunch of client sessions this week and I was just noticing these themes in so many of our lives and across a lot of my clients' lives. And it's been so beautiful to see where even in the spiritual community, we're labeling things as good or bad and shadow and light. And of course, it helps us to discern what's aligned with our truth so that we can align with that. But we want to always align with our truth from a place of love and not fear. And this is kind of like the next tier of this conversation that we'll go into in a minute. But I first want to really kind of sink into this conversation of shame a little bit more so that you guys can feel into where in your life are you feeling a bit of resistance towards embracing something about yourself? Where in your life are you feeling a bit of shyness towards expressing yourself because you're fearing how someone's going to perceive you? And I want to talk a little bit more about this fear of perception and fear of other people perceiving you in a negative way. because it's not so much what we're fearing other people will think about us. We're fearing that people will like find out something about us that we think is true. And that is where you can really reclaim your power back, because when we're pointing the finger outward and saying, "Oh, I'm scared what this person's going to think of me." No, you're not. You're scared that that person's going to think something about you that you think about you. And then once you go into that, you can start to explore, what is it that I think about me? Like, what is it that I'm so scared of someone's going to find out about me? And that's where you get into like the freaking juicy stuff, because you realize, holy crap, this thing that I've been labeling as something bad that needs to hide, it's just a part of my essence, and it's freaking beautiful. And I don't have to hide that. I don't have to shy away from expressing that or just embracing that that may be a part of my unique blueprint and frequency. And something that we've been diving into so beautifully within the first month of the portal, Bella taught an individuation session, which maybe we already talked about this on the podcast. I can't remember. Did we?
We might have mentioned it in the last episode.
Yeah, well, I'm going to mention it again because it was so good. Bella taught an individuation session where, why don't you like give a little summary of it with the 64?
Okay, yes. First, I just want to say how powerful it is to even just paint the picture of sort of this like spectrum and what is available on the other side. And it's really, however we paint it, is the freedom to be, the confidence to be, the authenticity, all of it to just be in this liberated state. And it's incredible too how you pointed out, where whenever we set an intention or we step into a new level of being or reality or something that we're exploring, all of the perfect things come up. And when you're living life in this way, right? In this way that everyone here who's listening does, where you are always using it as a mirror, it just is the perfect way to, even by virtue of the growth process, come into contact with shadows that are just inviting you to step into love by virtue of the fact that they're coming up.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to recap what the individuation session is about, basically the whole concept of individuating, which is to come into your own unique essence, is to embrace the process of seeing that you do have shadows, seeing that part of your unique frequency is sometimes expressed as a shadow, and that the way to get to the light expression is through this process of allowing it, accepting it, and embracing it. And allow, accept, embrace is actually a process specifically coded into the Gene Keys system from Richard Rudd. And it's just the perfect way of seeing how, by letting a shadow literally be present in your space, first of all, and then actually accepting that it is there, and then embracing it is literally the transmutation process. And one thing that's so interesting, which me and you were talking about recently, is how it's not that you can't ever have this discernment or this concept of, say this idea of like raising a child and wanting to quote unquote like instill good morals in them, which is like a perfectly honorable thing to do and something I would totally encourage, right? But the point is, there's two different energies that it can come from. One is from fear and one is from love. One is from already having rejected parts of oneself and saying that these are bad, not from this like intuitive place of preferential, frequencies and behaviors that we want to see in ourselves or in the world. But it's a totally different thing when those come from fear or love. And when we bring love to the shadows, we actually are able to discern then and like sniff out what is actually of the highest good or a highest alignment. And we aren't in this resistance battle with what is. So anyway, to bring it back to, especially in the arena of self-expression, it's interesting because I think what we fear is that we think that the solution to, we don't want to be found out. We don't want someone to see that we have this thing about us that's not ideal. we think the solution is, oh, just like shove it away. And this is the irony of where we are, this predicament in the collective, is it doesn't actually work. It just makes it essentially like fester, and it makes us in resistance to a part of us that ultimately just needs love to transmute. And this is what you're highlighting, is that self-forgiveness and that ability to love all parts, or at least just accept as they are, then allows you to more likely transform the shadow into a higher expression, right? Which is also a thing that we want naturally, right? We want the world to be expressing in its light, in the way that is most divine. But that doesn't happen by shoving them under the rug. So it's just incredible. Like the irony of this whole game is like the conditioned self is so intent on literally keeping the shadows in the closet, and then the heart comes in, the frequency of love comes in, the ever-loving frequency of the source code of this universe comes in and is like, no, I don't need to shove this in the corner. I actually would like to just look at this and bring it on my journey. And then we see that the shadow is literally just like the light in disguise.
Yes, and that's what I feel about this energy of shame. I always like to view things from almost like an ET perspective of these other beings seeing little earthlings transmuting and dealing with shadows. This shadow of shame is so fucking potent. Like whenever I can sense that maybe anyone is holding a bit of shame, or I'm guiding a client through this transmutation process, it is because the beings that transmute that energy have such unique gifts that they came here to share. And I believe we all have this, but there are some souls that came here with a freaking mission to like fully own and claim their individuality. And you wouldn't be able to experience what it feels like to just fucking claim yourself if you didn't experience the contrast of what it feels like to not, of what it feels like to totally, yeah, shove essentially parts of yourself in the corner, or to even have like this list of things in your head of like, okay, these are good and these are bad. And I really do believe that as a being that's on this journey of like tapping into my gifts and my mission and what I'm here to do, it's like an initiation that you go through where you can play it safe for so long and be palatable for as long as you like, until your body and your soul knows that you're ready and that you can actually handle more projection. Do you know what I mean? Like you can play it safe and be speaking a certain way and only share like a fraction of who you are, and you're not going to get that much projection. But when you expand into a being that can really put yourself out there, and you and I both know creators that are really sharing their truth and they stand as a powerful mirror into what this looks like, there is projection that comes your way because there's parts of you that are going to mirror to other people. And yeah, not to like bring up this whole freaking Aubrey Marcus thing again, but that's what was happening. Like he was mirroring to people parts of themselves that they're feeling shame and judgment from within. And I know people can hear that and they can be triggered by that of like, no, this is just bad. And no, trust me, I had the same reaction at first. And then this really started to snowball into this whole awareness of like, wow, there are parts of our 3D human self that want to label things, that wants to shun things, that wants to reject things. And I think it's very different. I think judgment is very different. I think people mix up the word judgment and discernment when they're trying to talk about discernment. And judgment, I feel, has an undertone of fear, where discernment has an undertone of love. And
right.
I mean,
or even just neutrality.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you're discerning, I guess I was saying love for self.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
But yes, neutrality towards outwardly that allows you to then come to the decision that is ultimately love for self. But I think we're saying the same thing. I think that when you, and this has been another big theme that I'm feeling into, is this like discernment. Because we are at such a fork in the road, which I do believe is going to continuously happen in bigger ways throughout these next few years. there is so much in front of us right now that is representing contrast that is not truly aligned with our truth of like what feels good to us.
Mm.
And I think where a lot of us are going to be called to release shame and judgment is when we're in the middle of like a decision or a fork in the road. And it's not like we're saying no to this thing because we're judging it and shaming it. It's like, no, I'm going to actually choose to align with my truth and my reality field out of a place of love for myself. And yes, neutrality, like being able to look at things and understand from the higher perspective. This is all one, this is all neutral, but what aligns with me is this way.
Right.
And I think this is going to progressively happen more and more as we experience just there's so much light that is like being sent down to earth right now where the awakening and the collective awakening is happening at such a rapid speed. And with that, people are going to be shaken up. Like things that are built on fear are going to be shaken up. And I do feel like we're always navigating these choice points of kind of like moving closer to what feels true and aligned to us. And
Mm.
it's out of this like empowering discernment that comes alive. And
Yeah.
you're seeing a lot of conversation around like judgment, discernment, shame, and it's all in the same realm.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a big journey for humanity right now. And it's nuanced, it's complex, it's also we're just seeing what happens, and we're seeing a lot of dust kicked up in so many areas. We know that
Mm-hmm.
this is literally what the collective energy is about, the new paradigm, all of it is things are just coming to light. And I also think this is why this is related to what you're saying, because we also can remove the pressure from ourselves to be doing it perfectly.
Mm.
So you know what? Maybe right now you are not sure how to navigate this thing that's happening in the collective, this news about whatever. And you're like, I'm feeling many feelings about this. Great. Feel the feelings.
Yeah, you're meant
And
to.
just, right? That's the thing, is like your body is also a very intelligent barometer for bullshit and for alignment and for love
Mm-hmm.
and all the things. And sometimes your body reacts by being like, ugh, I don't like that. And not to get so veering off topic, but I do think it relates. The point is, the more we literally allow,
Mm-hmm.
allow the process, allow the imperfection, allow the thing to come up, embrace the imperfection, embrace whatever is, just what is, period. That is what allows us to release shame and charges, emotional charges, sort of certain frequencies that are causing misalignment, and not because there's something wrong with that, but just because this is where we are on the learning journey. And I think that's ultimately what, to loop it back to this really powerful example of a self-expression journey, or, being in a group of people and giving yourself the freedom to not be hyper focused on what people are thinking of you, when you just allow yourself to be in the imperfection, to be in the mess, to be in whatever expression you are, or to be super bright and shiny, and to be this incredible big energy that is maybe a lot for some people and is incredible for others. That is all the mixture that allows freedom and softening and being to take place. And you can't skip to the part, without what you're saying of letting the things rise. We always say it's not that you have to always learn through contrast, but it's really learning through acceptance of shadows. And the shadows are pretty part and parcel to this whole experience for a reason. So yeah, I think that's beautiful. I would love to know if there's any other like big major revelations or shifts that you've felt, or maybe something that someone can anchor into if they are feeling those frequencies of shame or rejection, or kind of maybe more in it right now.
Yeah. I feel like it's really beautiful to reflect back on maybe childhood memories And if you're listening to this podcast, I would assume you're a sensitive being that can feel, and maybe there's a spectrum within that. But I do see a common thread amongst a lot of sensitive beings that our emotions were something that were too much, too big, shouldn't be feeling. And whether we were perceiving a situation through a false lens or we just were interpreting it through that lens, I think one of the biggest avenues that we can go down of fully embracing our gifts and our essence is really owning our emotional sensitivity. And that was a big theme that I tapped into with a lot of clients this week, was really allowing the parts of them that feel like too much. And when you dive into that, what you see is that there are these beautiful moments where we were expressing the bigness of who we are, or we were feeling emotions. And it wasn't that we were too big or too much, but we were in a container that just couldn't really handle that energy. So we created meaning out of that by saying, oh, I must be too much. If this is how
Mm.
this is being received, I must be too much. And then that's where the diluting of self starts to happen. Because as a child, you're starting to kind of compartmentalize, okay, when I act like this, I get this response. When I act like this, I get this response. And this is where, just as a collective, we've gone so wrong with really educating children on emotions and allowing them to express and feel them, not in like a over identification kind of way, but just teaching them about them as energy and that they're passing through the body and that you can shake it off and
Mm.
you can dance it off and you can scream into a pillow, and the movement of that frequency. And we're not really educated in that way. And it's not to anyone's fault. It's just this, it goes so deep. And I think a lot of the collective shame that we feel is around emotion. It's around us not knowing how to feel emotions, us feeling like our emotions are too much, when really that's like such a gift that you have. And a being that's super connected to emotions is able to really steer the ship of their life with this inner compass that feels like so active and so on it. And it's this beautiful gift that you can always return to return home to your truth. So just to circle back, what I'm saying is really feeling into, you guys listening, if there are any parts of you that feel like they're too much, too big, too emotional, and start there. Start allowing yourself the freedom to be emotionally in tune, to be a person that can take in a lot of data, can really hone in on the frequencies of a room. And when you own that about yourself and you embrace it, you'll notice that those moments where you're feeling so-called like negative emotions or just denser emotions, you'll notice that there's like a relief there, because so much of the resistance of us feeling comes from the shame we put on ourselves of feeling that way. Like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling this way. I shouldn't be feeling this way. And it's such a common thing. We all are on this journey of embracing this. I feel like every single being has a lesson of learning how to just embrace density, because
Mm.
it's so not natural to us. And that shame is a portal into embracing your emotional sensitivity, to embracing who you are as a powerful being that is so in tune with this reality field. And when we start to go into that embrace, you start to tap into the gift aspect. And that's exactly what you were talking about, of that kind of journey of acknowledge, accept, embrace, right? That's the cadence.
Allow, accept, embrace. Yeah.
Allow,
Definitely.
accept, embrace. And yeah, another thing with shame is you're listening to this podcast and you're attuned to what I'm saying and it's resonating and it's hitting. Start to think about parts of who you are that make you so unique and so special that someone would receive and feel so seen and so heard just by being able to witness you express that part of you. And just let yourself be more in that radiance. This is something that I'm practicing. I'm really noticing when maybe I express a part of me in an environment where in the past I would have felt like scared of how people are perceiving me. I'm just playing around with that edge of like, ooh, let me just like push a little in this direction, push a little in this direction, And I'm just returning home to the fact that, wow, I'm still safe. I'm still alive. And it's like a almost exposure therapy of just like embracing all of you. And if it wants to come out messy, it comes out messy. If it wants to come out angry, it comes out angry. And it's this really beautiful process that I'm leaning into, that I invite you guys to lean into. And we're just at such an epic point in our evolution where we're noticing, wow, we're these beautiful fucking souls that came into this earth realm to just experience duality, experience contrast, experience density. And the fact that we ever labeled dense emotions or things that we experience more in this 3D realm as something bad is like just so ludicrous when you think about it. It just doesn't even make sense. Why would it be bad? It just is. It literally just is. So this is just a reprogramming we're all going through.
Yeah, that is so freaking powerful. I want to just add a double highlight on something you just said, because the challenge to like push the edge and just do it messy is so life-changing. And I think I've shared this with you before, but I feel like I remember such a huge piece of it's the concept of trial by fire and like growth by fire. And I always will think back to the like 2020, 2021 era when I went absolutely ham on social media and I received a lot of stuff. And I'm not gonna call it hate. It was just like
projections.
I mean, not even projections. It was just people's different opinions and contrasting viewpoints. Some of it was projections.
Oh, you're talking about like 2020.
I'm talking about like I'm talking about like COVID era, because that's when I really started to express myself online. So it was perfect. It was trial by literal fire.
Wow.
And it was like, I'm going to go
walk through the fire.
And I'm telling you, it's what you're saying, that it is so like, you will be able to tell if this is the path you're meant for. It's not necessarily like always the best way to go, but I do think there's something to be said for the sooner you start going unhinged and really letting it all out there, the sooner you are going to get all the opportunities to reflect and find safety in your own being and not need the approval of others. Because let me tell you, it really does something to your confidence and your freedom to literally just be yourself, to put yourself out there to that degree and open yourself up to projection, contrast, differing opinions, different ways of being.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways, because it helps you have more love for yourself and for others. And that's literally the beauty of like embracing. Because I also look back on that era and I know that I was expressing out of a lot of shadows at the time too. Because I know that I ultimately actually am not super meant to be that like opinionated in that flavor. And it was very opinionated era. And I'm like, oh, interesting. That's cool that I did that. But I can see now that like I prefer to express this way. But the more you like kick up the dust, maybe this is just because I'm a psychopath sometimes, and I'm like, more learning, more growing. But we're both that way. Let's be real.
Yeah.
But no, it's literally, this is just a permission slip to embrace the freaking journey, allow it all to come up. And that is the best way to open up opportunities to bring more love towards yourself and toward others. The ripple effects are never ending.
Right. Yeah. So let's share each a message. I feel like that what you just shared is really powerful, but maybe we can even just share a bit more. Anyone that is fearing the perception of others, what would you want to share with them right now?
Okay, this is what's coming to mind, and I know it's a little bit cliche, but it's really true, and I feel like it will hit in this context. What they say about that other people are really not thinking about you as much as you think that they are.
Yeah.
Number one, it's really so true, okay? We are all self-centered. I'm self-centered, Nikki's self-centered, everyone is self-centered. Everyone is mostly thinking about themselves, and it's not a bad thing. It's just we're literally like the mechanics of our mind is in our own world as it's meant to be. So that's number one. Number two, if someone else is thinking about you, number one, it is already fitting into their own perception of reality. So you are just playing a character in their divine script, and it is not your business what type of character you're playing. If you're playing a villain, a superhero, a side act that they literally don't give a shit about, it's not your business. It's in their divine unfolding of life, the character that you play in their script. And lastly, most likely, they are probably not thinking about you in the ways that you perceive yourself to be, that they're thinking about you, because you are also in your own world with all your own inputs. And this other person does not have nearly the same amount of data that you do about you. So all of that to say, it's true what they say that people are really not thinking about you as much as they are. And if they are, it's in their divine script, and it has really ultimately not much to do with you. And just come back to that, because sometimes that's a reminder that you need to just be like, okay, this is just like a silly goose moment I'm having. Carrying on.
I love what you said about the character. And it's like, how much safety can we create in our bodies to know that sometimes you are like the character you don't want to be in someone's story?
Yes. Yes. That's huge. That's an experience I had this recent weekend where I was on this bachelorette trip, and I was telling my sister who was with me, I was like, listen, sometimes you're going to play a villain in someone's movie, and that's okay. It's actually a divine role, because we all have people in our life that serve as a different character, and it literally has nothing to do with you. And even if you are playing a villain in that movie, you can either choose to reflect on things that you would like to shift about yourself to quote unquote not be a villain, but most likely you just need to be honored that you even have a role, because whatever role you're playing is divine, and it again has pretty much nothing to do with the actual you.
That's going to hit for someone. That's
Yeah.
going to hit. That was good. That's really good. I'm going to take that one with me, because I've definitely been feeling some stuff come up about like, ooh, I'm this role in this person's life, but it's like, where can I just embrace that? Because again, it's all divine. Like the energy that someone feels because you mirror something back to them is actually such a divine part of their evolution. And
Yes.
it's pretty cool if you think about it, like the different roles that we all play. And
Yeah.
it's impossible for someone to see you the way that you see yourself.
Impossible.
Impossible.
It's also no one else's role too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like that's the sacredness of being your own safe space, is like arguably you are the only one, and then maybe like your divine partner or your closest friend, but even then it's not even entirely possible. Like we get pretty close, but that's also the biggest thing, just release the need for even anyone to understand your full depth.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And even further with that, something I would share with someone is, if you ever feel like you're running into a being that is rejecting of any parts of you, just know that, first of all, no one who's fully claiming all of themselves will ever look at a being in their shadow and say that's wrong or bad. So it's just all the more reason to have compassion and love, as we are all on this journey of like softening and embracing all of who we are. And sometimes your role of expressing yourself freely is going to be to mirror to someone else where they're not allowing themselves to express themselves freely. And this has just been such a sacred part of my journey, where I'm really learning, okay, what is there to actually fear with the way someone is perceiving me if I'm just a mirror for their own inner world? And if there is a rejection of like, oh, they're rejecting this part about me, it's again not about me caring about what they're thinking about me. It's about me caring about what they are potentially validating that I think about myself. So then once you clear that, you're like fucking free. And then on top of that, you get to just discern if you're constantly around beings that are like just being dicks. This is not to say like you need to like sit there and take that, but just walk away with a sense of, okay, I understand they're fighting their own demons. They're on their own journey of embracing their own shadows. And this is where the neutrality comes in to then decide, okay, I'm going to just align this way. And I think that is like the definition of discernment, is being able to feel in with neutrality and love, like which direction you want to just turn to. And
Yeah.
definitely important to bring that up, because you're not saying that like everyone's a mirror and you need to just go embrace everyone with love and throw yourself into the fire in that way. No,
No.
absolutely not. Like, have discernment of when things are worth giving love to and when it's just like you can love it from a distance and walk away.
Yes.
And yeah.
Yes. I love that. I think that's powerful, because it's not to say like, we say everything is mirror. It is. And also you can have preferences and discernment, like we're saying.
Yeah.
And when the energy of shame has been removed and you are back in the seat of love, you are then able to receive feedback. You're able to be like, you know what?
Yeah.
I fucked up. I am sorry. And own your actions and whatever it is, because that's also part of the journey. But all of that becomes so much easier and more natural when we are in the seat of love. And that is the point.
Amen. I love it. Yeah, definitely. Do you have any other thoughts coming up? I was going to close this out.
No, that was perfect. I love that.
Yeah, I was going to say, guys, definitely let us know what's hitting for you with this. I would love to just hear what resonated, just because this has been such a beautiful part of my release and remembering in the past few weeks. And it's just been oh my God, such a beautiful feeling to come home to myself even more. And thank you so much for listening and witnessing to you, Bella, as well, because I know I was wanting to dive into this topic and you held space in such a beautiful way. And I really, really
Absolutely.
appreciate you and love you so much.
Oh my God. I love you. And I'll just add for the listener, if you have any questions, you had any interesting thoughts come up while you're listening, send us a DM or drop them in the comments, either if you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, where you can comment below the episode, follow-up questions, things maybe that we didn't get to in this episode. Of course, it's impossible to exhaust a topic in one sitting, but drop your questions or any other thoughts. We love to hear from you and expand on the incredible topics that we always touch on. So thank you so much for listening. We love you so much, and we will see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.